My name is Alvina Tuttle. I'm 27 years old, and this is the story of the moment I realized my mother and my sister had already decided my apartment wasn't really mine anymore. I never thought I'd become someone who secretly recorded her own family. That kind of thing always sounded extreme, something people did when relationships were already beyond saving. But there I was, alone in my one-bedroom apartment in Chicago, headphones on, replaying my mother's voice as she calmly explained why I was being selfish for wanting to keep the home I bought with my own money. I wish I could say it started suddenly. It didn't. It started quietly, politely, the way manipulation always does. I'm the oldest of 3 kids. My sister Maddie is 20 and currently in college. My youngest brother Lucas is 18, fresh into his first year. Our parents, Ronald and Patricia Tuttle, divorced when I was 15. Dad moved to Seattle, remarried, and slowly faded out of our daily lives. Mom stayed in Illinois with us. She never let us forget that she stayed. The divorce wrecked her, financially, emotionally, and in every way that mattered. Or at least, that's how she framed it. From that point on, there was an unspoken rule in our family. If something went wrong, it was Mom's sacrifice that justified everything else. And somehow, I became the solution to every problem. I started working when I was 14. Babysitting at first, then retail, then tutoring. I paid my way through college with scholarships and loans. I never asked Mom for help because help came with guilt and interest. After graduation, I landed a solid job in tech. I lived below my means, saved aggressively. 2 years ago, I bought my apartment. It isn't huge, about 650 square feet. Exposed brick, hardwood floors that creak in winter, a small balcony that barely fits a chair, but catches the morning sun just right. It's not flashy, but it's mine. Maddie's place, on the other hand, is a cramped studio near campus, rough neighborhood, paper-thin walls. Mom helps cover part of her rent and complains about it constantly. She shouldn't have to live like that, Mom would say. She's just a kid. You're more established. At first, Maddie started coming over to study. She said my apartment was quieter. I didn't mind. Then she stayed later. Then overnight. Then she brought friends. Then clothes appeared in my closet. 1 drawer became 2. Then a shelf in the bathroom. Then shoes by the door that weren't mine. Before I realized it, she was sleeping over 4 nights a week. My water bill doubled. My electric bill jumped. My groceries disappeared faster than usual. When I gently suggested she chip in, or maybe spend more time at her own place, she didn't argue. She went straight to Mom. That's when the phone calls started. Alvina, family helps family. You have all that space to yourself. It's selfish to live comfortably while your sister struggles. I tried explaining. I reminded Mom that I was still paying student loans, that I owned my apartment outright, that Maddie already had a place she helped pay for. None of it mattered. Mom started showing up unannounced, always with Maddie. They'd walk through my apartment like they were touring a model unit. Maddie's desk would fit perfectly here. This closet could easily be shared. You don't even use this corner. It felt like my home was slowly being appraised out from under me. 3 months ago, Mom called while I was working late. I had code open on one screen and cold coffee on the other. I've been thinking, she said, her voice light. The most logical solution is for you and Maddie to switch apartments. I actually laughed. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. You're single. You don't need all this space. Maddie could feel safe. You'd save money in a smaller place, and we'd make up the difference. My stomach dropped. You want me to give up the apartment I bought? I asked. Not give up, she corrected quickly. Trade. It's temporary, just until Maddie graduates. Mom, I said carefully, I own my apartment. Maddie rents hers. Well, we can work out the details, she replied. Don't be difficult. That word, difficult, hit harder than anything else. Not unreasonable. Not unfair, difficult. That night, something shifted in me. I stopped arguing. I stopped trying to convince her. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I pressed record. I downloaded a discreet recording app. I saved every call, every text, every email. I screenshotted the guilt-tripping messages. I labeled audio files by date and topic. A week later, after discovering Maddie somehow had a spare key, I installed a small security camera near my entryway. I told myself it was temporary, just for peace of mind. I had no idea what I was about to uncover. Once I started recording, I couldn't stop noticing how carefully my mother chose her words. It was like watching a magician after you've learned the trick. The pauses, the sighs, the way she never asked for anything. She framed it as an obligation I'd somehow already agreed to. Alvina, I'm just worried about Maddie. You know I wouldn't ask if it wasn't necessary. I carried this family on my back after your father left. Every call followed the same rhythm. Concern, guilt, comparison, obligation. I saved them all. At first it felt dramatic, excessive. I kept telling myself I'd delete the recordings once things cooled down. But things didn't cool down. They escalated. Mom started calling more often, sometimes twice a day. If I didn't answer, she'd leave voicemails, long ones. Messages where she spoke slowly, deliberately, like she was building a case against me. You've changed, Alvina. You used to care about family. I don't recognize you anymore. Maddie followed a different strategy. She'd text late at night. I can't sleep at my place. I feel unsafe here. Mom says you don't understand what it's like to be alone. I screenshotted everything. Then came the threats. Not outright at first, just hints. Well, I guess I know where I stand. I hope you don't regret this one day. Family remembers who was there for them. I noticed something else too. Mom had started talking to extended family. My aunt, my grandmother, cousins I barely spoke to anymore. Suddenly, I was getting messages asking if everything was okay. If Maddie was really struggling as much as Mom said. If I was doing all right. The story had already been rewritten, and I wasn't the author. The recordings piled up fast. In 1 month alone, Mom called me selfish over 40 times, compared me to my father at least a dozen, threatened to reconsider her will, even though she had nothing to leave behind. The most chilling part wasn't the words themselves. It was how comfortable she was saying them. Then the camera footage started. The first clip was on a Wednesday afternoon while I was at work. I watched it at night, sitting on my couch with the lights off. The door opened. Mom walked in first. Maddie followed. They didn't look around nervously. They didn't hesitate. They moved through my apartment like they belonged there. Mom opened my bedroom closet. Maddie laughed and said, I'd finally have room for my jackets. They measured the living room with their arms, took photos. Maddie sat on my bed and bounced lightly, smiling. This will be perfect when Kyle stays over, she said. Kyle, her boyfriend, 25, unemployed, someone Mom pretended didn't exist. My hands were shaking by the time the clip ended. There were more. 3 separate entries while I was gone, always during work hours, always confident, always planning. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I organized everything. Audio files labeled by date, text messages in chronological order, video clips trimmed and saved. I backed everything up twice, cloud storage and an external drive I kept in my work bag. I wasn't paranoid anymore. I was prepared. 2 days later, Mom called and dropped the next bomb. We need to have a family meeting, she said, at your place. We'll finalize the apartment situation. She didn't ask. She announced it. Saturday, 2 p.m. I agreed without hesitation. The morning of the meeting, my apartment felt different, like it was holding its breath. I connected my laptop to the TV, organized the files into folders, set my phone on the counter, recording silently. When Mom arrived, she walked in with that same authoritative calm. Maddie followed, arms crossed, eyes already scanning the room. Mom didn't waste time. We need to discuss the timeline for the switch, she said, sitting down like this was already decided. Maddie's lease is up in 2 months. No, I said. Both of them froze. No? Mom repeated, her voice sharp. No, I said again. We're not switching apartments. Her face flushed. Alvina Patricia Tuttle, you don't speak to me like that. I do now, I replied. This is my home. I bought it. This discussion is over. She stood up. I am your mother. I know what's best for this family. You know what's best for Maddie, I said calmly, and I'm done. Before she could respond, I took a breath. There's something you should know, I continued. I've been documenting everything for the past month. Silence. Maddie's confident expression collapsed. Mom's mouth opened, then closed. You what? She whispered. I turned on the TV. The first audio clip played. Mom's voice filled the room. What kind of sister lets her own blood struggle while she lives like a queen? Mom went pale. You recorded me without permission, she said, shaking. These were recorded in my home for my protection, I replied, and I've spoken to a lawyer. I played another clip, then another. Texts, threats, lies. Then the video. Mom watched herself on the screen, walking into my apartment without permission. That's trespassing, I said quietly. I could file a police report. Mom sank back onto the couch. What do you want? She asked. Simple, I said. This stops. No more apartment talk, no more guilt trips, no more lies to the family. Maddie visits only when invited, and you both apologize. And if we don't? Maddie asked weakly. I held up my phone. Then everyone sees everything. The room felt impossibly small. Mom finally spoke. I'm sorry. Maddie followed, tears streaking her face. I just hate my apartment. They left shortly after. The silence that followed felt unreal, but I knew this wasn't over. The silence after they left wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, suspended, like the moment after an earthquake when you're not sure if the ground is done moving or just catching its breath. I didn't sit down for a long time. I stood in the middle of my living room, staring at the door, half expecting it to open again. My phone was still recording. I didn't turn it off until my hands stopped shaking. That night, I slept on the couch with the lights on. By morning, the fallout had already started. My brother Lucas called first. His voice was hesitant, like he wasn't sure which version of the story he'd stepped into. Alvina, what did you do to Mom? There it was, the victim narrative. I'd been expecting it. She told you I threatened her, didn't she? I asked. She said you lost it, that you're recording people now, that you're dangerous. I closed my eyes. Lucas, I said quietly, do you want to hear what actually happened? He hesitated, then said yes. I sent him 3 audio clips. Nothing nuclear, just enough. Mom guilt-tripping me, threatening me, talking about my apartment like it was already Maddie's. He didn't speak for a long time after listening. Holy crap, he finally said. She really tried to push you out of your own place. And broke in, I added. That's insane. For the first time in days, I exhaled fully. Lucas understood immediately. He'd been dealing with his own version of Mom's control since starting college. She'd been pressuring him to change majors, to be more practical, to live his life the way she thought made sense. You did the right thing, he said. I wish I'd thought of recording her. Not everyone reacted like Lucas. By Wednesday, extended family members were calling. My aunt, a cousin, even my grandmother. Mom had gone on the offensive. I got a call from Aunt Karen, the family mediator, the one who always believed everything could be smoothed over if everyone just talked nicely enough. Your mother is distraught, she said carefully. She says you're threatening to humiliate her publicly over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I repeated. She said it was about helping Maddie with housing. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. Aunt Karen, I said, did she mention entering my apartment without permission, or telling people I'm selfish and unstable, or threatening to disown me? Silence. She didn't mention those parts, I continued. Would you like to hear them? She tried to deflect. I didn't let her. I played one recording. Then another. Karen gasped. She said that about you? There's more, I replied. But I think you get the idea. The call ended quickly after that. Within hours, the family group chat exploded. Questions, arguments, vague messages about boundaries and respect. Some people defended Mom. Others went quiet. A few reached out privately to tell me they'd suspected something was wrong for years. Then came the knock on my door. It was Friday evening. I hadn't told anyone I'd be home. I checked the camera feed before opening it. Maddie's boyfriend Kyle stood in the hallway with his arms crossed, trying to look intimidating. I opened the door, but didn't invite him in. "You need to apologize to Maddie," he said immediately. "She's been crying all week because of you." I tilted my head. "Kyle, right?" His eyes flickered. "How do you—" "I know everything," I said calmly, "including your plan to move into my apartment once Mom forced me out." His face went red. "You can't prove that." I held up my phone and played the clip. His voice filled the hallway. "Your sister's a pushover. Just keep working your mom. We'll be in that place by summer." Kyle stepped back like he'd been slapped. He left without another word. An hour later, Maddie called, furious. "You humiliated him," she yelled. "He showed up at my home to intimidate me," I replied. "He's lucky I didn't call the police." She hung up. That night, my father called. We hadn't spoken in months. "Your mother says you're threatening to destroy her reputation," he said. "When was the last time you talked to any of us?" I asked. A pause. "That's not the point." "It is the point," I said. "Where were you when she was trying to steal my apartment?" Silence again. "She was trying to steal your apartment?" he asked finally. I sent him the full folder. Every recording, every message, every video. It took him 2 hours to call back. "This is abuse," he said quietly. "Yes," I replied. "It is." "I should have protected you," he said. "You didn't," I said. "But I'm protecting myself now." By Sunday, the dynamic had shifted. Mom's credibility was cracking. Relatives who had blindly supported her were suddenly quiet. Lucas had started setting his own boundaries. And Maddie showed up Monday morning, alone. She looked awful. Red eyes, messy hair, wearing one of my old hoodies she'd stolen years ago. "Can we talk?" she asked. I let her in. I kept my phone recording. She sat on the couch and stared at her hands. "I listened to the recordings," she said. "All of them." I waited. "I didn't realize how bad it was," she continued. "How bad I was." She looked up at me, eyes filled with something I hadn't seen before. Shame. "Mom told me you got everything handed to you," she said. "That Dad favored you. That you owed me." None of that was true. "I chose to believe her," Maddie said, "and I chose to go along with it." We talked for 2 hours. She admitted everything. The lies, the entitlement, Kyle's role, sneaking into my apartment. "I need to change," she said finally. "I'm getting a job, I'm paying you back for utilities, and I'm telling Mom to stop, or I'm cutting contact." It was the most adult thing she'd ever said. When she left, I didn't feel victorious. I felt steady. But I knew the hardest part was still coming. Maddie's apology should have felt like closure. It didn't. It felt like standing in the wreckage after a storm, grateful the house was still standing, but painfully aware of everything that had been damaged along the way. For a few days after our conversation, things were quiet. Too quiet. No calls from Mom, no texts loaded with half apologies and hidden blame, no passive-aggressive messages sent through other people. I knew better than to believe the silence meant peace. It meant regrouping. The first crack in the calm came from an email. Not a call, an email. Long, rambling, carefully written and rewritten, I was sure. Mom accused me of betraying her, of destroying the family, of being just like my father, her favorite insult. She said I had turned Maddie against her, that Lucas was being influenced by my extreme behavior, that the family would never be the same because I had chosen documentation over love. She ended it with, "I hope you're happy with what you've done." I stared at the screen for a long time before closing my laptop. I didn't respond. That decision to not respond was harder than any confrontation I'd had so far. Every instinct in me wanted to explain, justify, defend. But my cousin Rachel, who happened to be a therapist, had told me something that stuck. "Manipulation feeds on engagement," she said. "Silence is often the only boundary they understand." So I stayed silent. Mom didn't handle that well. She tried calling Lucas. He didn't answer. She left him voicemails filled with dramatic pauses and shaky breaths. He sent me one, asking what he should do. "Don't respond," I told him. "You don't owe explanations anymore." For the first time, we were aligned. Extended family reactions were mixed. Some relatives reached out privately to apologize for believing Mom without hearing my side. Others doubled down, insisting I'd gone too far, that I'd embarrassed her, that family matters should stay private. I stopped trying to convince anyone. The people who mattered already knew the truth. A week later, Dad came to Chicago. We met for coffee, neutral territory. He looked older than I remembered, smaller, like the years had finally caught up with him. I didn't realize how bad it was, he said quietly, staring into his cup. You didn't want to, I replied. He nodded. I thought leaving would protect you kids from the fighting. I didn't realize I was leaving you alone with her. I didn't know what to say to that. I'm in therapy now, he added. I should have been years ago. It didn't fix anything, but it was a start. Meanwhile, Maddie followed through. She got a job, nothing glamorous, retail, part-time, but it was real. She paid me back for utilities without being asked. She stopped coming over unannounced. When Mom tried to guilt her about choosing sides, Maddie shut it down. There aren't sides, she told her. There are boundaries. I didn't expect that sentence to come out of her mouth. Mom didn't take it well. She spiraled, withdrawing from family, canceling plans, telling anyone who would listen that she didn't understand what she'd done wrong, only that her children had turned against her. Thanksgiving loomed like a storm cloud. Mom sent a group text announcing she'd be hosting, as always, despite recent difficulties. The responses were cautious, non-committal. Lucas replied first. I'm not coming unless Alvina is welcome and respected. Maddie followed. Same. The chat exploded. Aunts trying to mediate. Cousins choosing sides. Mom going quiet. That night she called me. Her voice sounded different. Not frantic, not manipulative. Scared. I don't want to lose my children, she said. Then stop trying to control us, I replied. Silence. I don't know how, she whispered. That was new. Then learn, I said. Get real therapy, not someone who just agrees with you. Another pause. Will you help me find someone? She asked. It was the first time she'd ever asked for help without attaching strings. I gave her Rachel's referral. To my shock, she went. And kept going. Thanksgiving ended up being small. Just me, Maddie, Lucas, and Mom. No grand speeches, no forced cheer, just Chinese takeout and careful conversation. Mom brought a letter, written with her therapist. She apologized, specifically. No excuses, no deflection, for entering my apartment, for the guilt trips, for trying to manipulate me out of my home. When she finished, her hands were shaking. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was accountability. December tested everything. Old habits die hard. Mom caught herself slipping more than once, but she stopped, apologized, adjusted. When she asked about Christmas plans, she did it carefully, gave options, accepted no without drama. I hosted. Set rules. No staying overnight, no comments about my apartment, no going through my things. She followed them. It felt strange, like watching someone learn a new language in real time. By January, the changes felt real. Mom started dating. Asked permission before bringing him to family events. Maddie saved money. Lucas changed his major without guilt. The family wasn't fixed, but it was different. And for the first time, different felt safe. 3 months later, my mother still hadn't fully forgiven me. Not out loud, anyway. She said the right things now. She apologized when she crossed lines. She asked instead of demanded. She even went to therapy, real therapy, not the kind where someone tells you you're always right. But I could feel it, the restraint, the fear, the knowledge that she couldn't push anymore because she knew what I had. The first few weeks after Thanksgiving were quiet, unnaturally quiet. No daily calls, no dramatic sighs, no, I just wanted to check on you messages that somehow turned into guilt. I knew better than to mistake silence for peace. It wasn't peace, it was caution. Maddie changed faster than I expected. She stopped asking, stopped hinting, stopped hovering around my apartment like it was a prize she'd almost won. She worked, paid me back, didn't complain when Mom tried to pull her into old patterns. One night, she texted me. She tried again. I said no. That was it. No explanation, no justification. Lucas followed suit, changed his major, didn't ask permission. When Mom started to object, she caught herself and stopped mid-sentence. I watched it happen once. She actually closed her mouth. That was new. Dad came back into my life slowly, carefully, like someone walking across thin ice, aware he'd already fallen through once. We didn't pretend the past hadn't happened. We just didn't let it dictate everything anymore. As for the rest of the family, some thought I'd gone too far. Some quietly thanked me. Most adjusted. They always do. My apartment stayed exactly the same. No surprise visits. No comments about space. No measuring walls with greedy eyes. It stopped being something I had to defend. One night, I scrolled through my phone and found the recording app. For a second, I considered deleting it. Then I remembered my mother, standing in my living room, pale, realizing she'd lost control. I remembered Maddie on my bed, planning a future that didn't include my consent. I remembered how easy it was for them to decide my life for me, so I kept it. Not as a weapon, as insurance. My mother knows that. She hears it in the way I speak now. Calm, unapologetic, unmoved by guilt. Power doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like silence that no one dares to break. My apartment is still my sanctuary. My family still exists, but on my terms. And the recordings, they're still there, encrypted, backed up, untouched. A reminder that love without respect is just control in disguise, and that once you take your power back, no one ever really forgets.